I slid my business card across the glass table like I was making the last move in a game I'd been playing for 18 years. Ashley Hoffman laughed. Sharp and dismissive, the kind of laugh that cuts through a room. 20 minutes earlier, she'd fired me in front of 6 executives from our buyer. Now she was staring at my card like it had just slapped her in the face. My name is Andy Garrison. I'm 47 years old. Until that morning, I'd spent nearly 2 decades building Summit Logistics Solutions from a garage operation into a cold chain transportation company worth $480 million. I didn't do it with flashy presentations or social media campaigns. I did it in spreadsheets nobody read, contracts nobody understood, and backup systems everyone ignored until they needed them. I designed the refrigerated transport network that kept vaccines stable when Texas summer heat hit 110 degrees. I negotiated the FDA compliance framework that let us scale without getting shut down by regulators. My emergency protocols kept insulin shipments moving when that ice storm knocked out power across Dallas for 3 days. I was the guy taking calls at 2 a.m., not posting leadership quotes on LinkedIn. Then our founder retired. No transition, no handoff. Just a farewell barbecue on Friday and an empty office on Monday. That's when Ashley showed up. 26 years old, founder's niece, fresh MBA from Stanford. Her first day, she called an all-hands meeting and announced we were going to digitally transform our legacy processes. Everyone nodded. I didn't. See, I'd been through this before. Back in the Navy, some fresh lieutenant would show up wanting to revolutionize how we ran supply chains. Experience teaches you that good systems survive because they work, not because they look good in PowerPoint. Within a week, department heads were coming straight to me instead of Ashley. Legal, finance, operations. The sensors in Truck 47 were acting up again. I fixed it with a phone call. Ashley announced we were switching to some automated monitoring system that cost 3 times more and couldn't handle Texas heat. I documented that too. When you've been around long enough, you learn something about corporate disasters. They don't start with explosions. They start with confidence that isn't backed up by actual knowledge. When Titan Defense Solutions started their acquisition process, I knew exactly how this would play out. Ashley just didn't see it coming. After her first month, things changed. I stopped getting invited to meetings. Ashley didn't make a big announcement about it. She just stopped adding me to calendars. Strategy sessions became leadership only. Vendor calls turned into impromptu chats I somehow never heard about. When people asked where I was, she'd say, "Andy's more execution than vision." I took that as permission. When you've spent enough years inside a company, you learn the difference between being ignored and being underestimated. One's dangerous, the other's useful. I stayed quiet, did my job, fixed what I was still allowed to fix, and documented everything else. The military teaches you to keep paper trails. When things go sideways, and they always do, nobody remembers the conversations. They remember what got written down. Titan's due diligence team started asking questions, lots of them. On paper, Summit looked solid. Revenue was steady, margins were healthy. But their questions weren't about numbers. They were about what happens when things break. What happens if this vendor fails? Who actually knows how to fix the FDA compliance system? Where are the emergency procedures documented? Ashley answered with confidence. I answered with proof. At first, the messages came through back channels. Some junior analyst would accidentally copy me on an email. A legal guy would ask for background on some regulation. I responded with facts, no opinions, no commentary, just evidence. Then Jessica Walsh, Titan's integration lead, wrote to me directly. "Andy, could you spare 15 minutes to clarify a few operational dependencies?" I knew what that meant. You don't ask someone to clarify unless you already think they're the one who actually knows what's going on. I said yes. One call, 15 minutes. Jessica didn't waste time. She asked about vendor contracts, backup systems, who had emergency authority. I walked her through where the real risks were and where the safeguards actually lived. Then I mentioned, almost casually, that most of those safeguards depended on specific people knowing what to do. "Which people?" she asked. "Historically, me," I said. That was all it took. After that call, things started moving faster. I got copied on draft org charts. My name showed up in footnotes. Not headlines, footnotes. The kind that survive when lawyers review documents. Meanwhile, Ashley was busy making changes. She replaced our proven cold chain monitoring with some app-based system her consultant friend recommended. The guy had never shipped a vaccine in his life. Temperatures spiked in 3 trucks. A major pharmacy called threatening to drop us. I fixed it with 1 phone call, then sent the incident report to Titan's risk team. No commentary, just facts. The weird part wasn't Ashley's confidence. It was how certain she seemed. She really believed leadership was about being the loudest person in the room. That systems would just magically work because she said they should. But systems don't care about confidence. They follow rules. And I was starting to realize something important. Titan wasn't watching Ashley anymore. They were watching what happened when she wasn't around. That's when the first document showed up in my inbox. Late Wednesday night, a file landed in my inbox. No subject line, no message. Just a document labeled Transition Staffing Internal Draft. I almost deleted it. Almost. But 18 years of habit made me open it anyway. It wasn't meant for me. That was obvious. The thing was full of tracked changes, half-finished sentences, placeholder text. The kind of document that exists before decisions become official. I scrolled through it slowly. Then I saw it. A section titled Operational Continuity Authority. Under that, one line, Continuity Lead, TBD. To be determined. That's corporate speak for we're still figuring this out. But in acquisitions, figuring things out means power. And power was exactly what I needed. I saved the file and went to bed. Didn't tell anyone about it. Some things you keep to yourself until you understand what they really mean. The next few days were quiet on the surface but crazy underneath. Ashley pushed through another optimization. This time she reassigned approval rights for FDA reporting. Didn't tell legal, didn't tell finance. Definitely didn't tell Titan. The system crashed within 2 hours. Shipments got stuck. Reports wouldn't validate. The FDA sent us one of those polite but serious emails asking why our compliance filings were late. Ashley sent a company-wide message blaming legacy system rigidity and promised a fix by Friday. Meanwhile, I was already fixing it. Took me 20 minutes and 3 phone calls. Jessica called me that afternoon. This time she didn't ask for 15 minutes. She asked for my honest assessment of what was happening. I didn't sugarcoat anything. Walked her through exactly what Ashley had broken and why. Sent screenshots, error logs, timestamps, the whole mess, documented and organized. At the end of the call, Jessica was quiet for a minute. Then she said, "You know this isn't sustainable, right?" "Yeah," I said. "That's why I keep records of everything." Things changed after that call. Instead of asking what was happening, people started asking what should happen next. Draft org charts showed up with my feedback already built in. Risk reports mentioned Garrison's assessment. Legal started asking if changes needed continuity approval. That phrase again. Continuity approval. Ashley was still celebrating her transformation wins. She brought in some friend from business school to advise on strategic velocity. The friend suggested cutting a vendor backup system I'd put in place after a near disaster 3 years ago. I flagged the risk. Ashley ignored me. 2 days later, that backup system was the only thing that saved us when our main cold storage facility lost power during a summer brownout. Didn't say I told you so. Just sent Titan the incident report. Friday afternoon, another file showed up. Same name, updated version. This time the placeholder was gone. Continuity lead, Andrew Garrison. No announcement, no congratulations. Just my name, typed clean like it belonged there. I closed my laptop and sat there for a while. Because once your name's in documents like that, you can't go back. You're not just watching the game anymore. You're playing it. I didn't tell anyone about the document. Not legal, not finance, not even the 2 directors who still checked with me when things broke. That kind of authority works better when it stays quiet. Ashley could tell something was different, though she couldn't figure out what. Meetings started running late. Decisions got stuck halfway through. People began asking, "Has this been approved?" instead of, "What does Ashley want?" The real test came Monday morning. Ashley called an emergency leadership meeting. I wasn't invited. Nothing new there. What was new was the email from Titan's legal team, sent 12 minutes after the meeting ended. "Andy, we understand a staffing change was proposed this morning. Can you confirm whether continuity approval has been issued?" I read that twice. Nobody had used that phrase around Ashley yet. I kept my response simple. No continuity approval has been issued. 1 sentence. That's all it took. Within an hour, Ashley's proposed change was canceled. No explanation, no apology. Just a brief message about approval process alignment. Ashley never mentioned my name, but she started watching me after that. I'd catch her looking when I walked past her office. She'd linger after meetings, asking questions that weren't really questions. "So," she said one day, leaning in my doorway, "Titan seems to really value your input." "They ask questions," I said. "I answer them." She smiled, but it didn't look genuine. "Just want to make sure we're all aligned." Alignment, another corporate word that sounds friendly until you hear it too often. The next escalation was bigger. Ashley decided to streamline leadership before the deal closed. She drafted a plan to remove 3 senior managers, people who'd been at Summit longer than she'd been alive, called it modernization. The plan hit Titan's inbox before it hit mine. Jessica called within 10 minutes. "Did you sign off on this?" "No," I said, "and it violates the continuity framework." Papers rustled on her end. Someone else was breathing on the line. "Can you document that for us?" I already had everything ready. What Ashley didn't understand was this. By keeping me out of meetings, she'd freed me from having to play politics. I didn't need to convince anyone of anything. I just had to show them what was actually happening. By 5 p.m., Titan had frozen all staffing changes pending review. Ashley stormed into my office for the first time in weeks. "You're sabotaging me," she said. I looked up from my computer, calm as I could manage. "I'm doing my job." "Your job is operations," she snapped. "You don't get to block executive decisions." I didn't argue with her. The contract would handle that conversation soon enough. That night, one more message from Titan, short and direct. "Final transition meeting scheduled for Thursday. Please bring business cards." I stared at that email for a long time. People don't ask for business cards unless something big is about to change. And I knew exactly what that something was. Thursday morning came quiet. No drama, just a calendar reminder and a building that felt like it was holding its breath. I got there early. Old habits don't disappear just because your world's about to flip upside down. Ashley was already in the conference room. New suit, fresh haircut, the kind of confidence that comes from thinking you're about to win something big. She barely looked at me when I sat down at the far end of the table. Notebook closed, phone face down, ready to watch everything change. Titan's team filed in one by one, legal first, then finance, then Jessica. She gave me a small nod that meant more than any handshake. Finally, Ryan Stone, Titan's CEO, took his seat at the head of the table. Ashley straightened up. This was her big moment, or so she thought. Ryan opened without any small talk. "Let's review transition readiness and leadership alignment." Ashley jumped right in, started talking about vision, velocity, digital transformation. Clicked through slides full of arrows and flowcharts. About halfway through, my name popped up once, under a section called Outgoing Operational Support. I didn't react, just waited. Then came the staffing slide. Ashley cleared her throat. "To ensure agility post-close, we're recommending some leadership adjustments." She glanced my way for just a second, long enough to make her point clear. Ryan didn't interrupt, didn't nod either, just waited for her to finish. When she was done, the room went quiet. Then Ryan turned to Jessica instead of Ashley. "Continuity review?" Jessica opened her folder. "Several of these changes require approval under the continuity framework." Ashley frowned. "We discussed this. I'm the acting CEO." Ryan looked at her straight. "You're the acting CEO of a company in transition." Then he turned to me. "Andy, can you clarify whether these changes were approved?" Every eye in the room shifted my way. I could have explained everything, could have walked them through the clauses, cited the legal framework, made a whole presentation about it. Instead, I reached into my jacket pocket. The business card was simple, clean design, just my name, my new title, and Titan's logo. I put it on the table and slid it across to Ryan. The sound it made against the glass was barely audible, but everyone heard it. Ashley laughed. That same sharp, dismissive sound from 20 minutes ago. "That's not real." Ryan picked up the card. He didn't laugh. Read it once, then again. Then he leaned back and smiled. Not at me, but at the situation itself. Jessica let out a quiet breath, like someone watching a plan finally come together. Legal flipped to a page they already had marked. Ashley's laugh died in her throat. "No, that's not... This wasn't..." Ryan held up a hand. "Calm. Final. We'll get to that in a minute." The whole room felt different now. heavier, like the gravity had shifted and everyone was trying to figure out which way was up. For the first time since she'd taken over, Ashley looked uncertain, because power hadn't just changed hands, it had done it without asking her permission. Ryan didn't rush anything. That was the part Ashley hadn't prepared for. He let the silence stretch until everyone was uncomfortable. Then he nodded to Titan's lawyer. She opened her folder and turned it so the whole table could see. Page 14, paragraph E. Ashley leaned forward. "This is ridiculous. Whatever confusion there is, we can sort it out later." "We're sorting it out right now," Ryan said. The lawyer started reading. Not fast, not dramatic, just clear and steady. "All transition phase staffing and operational decisions shall fall under the final authority of the designated continuity lead, whose approval may not be overridden by interim or acting executives unless ratified by the acquiring board." She paused. "Designated continuity lead, Andrew Garrison." Ashley stared at the page like the words might rearrange themselves if she looked hard enough. "That's impossible. I never agreed to that." "You signed the agreement," Ryan said. "I didn't read it that way. Legal said it was standard language." "It is standard," the lawyer said calmly. "Standard when the buyer identifies operational risk tied to leadership instability. That hit harder than any direct accusation." Ashley's jaw tightened. "So what? He outranks me now?" Ryan answered before anyone else could. "For transition operations? Yes." Nobody defended Ashley. Nobody argued, because contracts don't care about feelings or fairness. They care about signatures and what those signatures mean. "Just so we're clear," Ryan continued, "any staffing changes proposed without continuity approval are void." He gestured at the slide still showing on the screen, the one listing senior managers as transitional exits. Ashley swallowed hard. Jessica spoke up next. "We'll also be reversing the monitoring system changes and restoring the previous FDA compliance structure, effective immediately." Ashley turned to her. "You can't just undo everything. We've already invested." "I've already approved the rollback," I said. First time I'd spoken since putting the card on the table. Ashley looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time. Ryan nodded. "Good. Now, Ashley, we need to discuss your role going forward." Ashley sat up straighter, trying to grab onto something familiar. "Right. I assume I'll continue as CEO under Andy's operational guidance." Ryan didn't answer right away. He opened a second folder. Thin, precise. "Actually," he said, "we've decided on a different approach. You'll be moving to a strategic planning position at our Austin office. Good opportunity to gain broader industry perspective." Ashley blinked. "You're demoting me." "We're repositioning you," Ryan replied. "Same salary, different focus." The words sounded nice. They weren't. Desk job. Reports nobody would read. No real authority. Ashley's mouth opened and closed. She looked around the table, searching for someone to back her up. Nobody did. Finally, she looked straight at me. "You planned this whole thing." I met her eyes, steady as I could. "No," I said. "I prepared for it. There's a difference." And that difference had just ended her run at the top. The meeting ended without fanfare. No applause, no dramatic exits. Just the quiet sound of chairs scraping back and folders snapping shut, like a courtroom after the verdict. Titan's team filed out first, already talking about timelines and integration steps. To them, this wasn't drama. It was just business getting back on track. Ashley stayed in her seat. Everyone else drifted away, giving her space she didn't deserve, but clearly needed. I packed up my notebook and stood to leave. Figured I'd walk past her without another word. "Andy," she said, not angry anymore, just small. I turned around. She was still holding the reassignment letter Ryan had slid across the table. Hadn't folded it or put it away, just stared at it like it might explain itself. "You knew," she said quietly, "this whole time." I thought about my answer. I knew you didn't understand what you were running. And I knew you thought being loud was the same as being right. Her jaw tightened. "You could have helped me." "I tried," I said. "You called it pushback." That landed hard. She looked down at the paper again. "Austin," she muttered, "strategic planning." "They'll teach you more in 6 months than any consultant ever will," I said. "If you listen." She didn't respond. I walked out. Back at my desk, I clipped the temporary Titan badge to my shirt. Small plastic thing that made a tiny click. Nothing dramatic about it. Just confirmation that things had changed. My email was already filling up. Legal asking for my schedule. Finance wanting approval to restore vendor contracts. Operations asking which problems to tackle first. For the first time in months, the noise made sense. The first week was all about fixing what Ashley had broken. I called the 3 suppliers she'd put on hold and took responsibility for the mess without throwing anyone under the bus. Reinstated the backup system she'd cut. Extended payment terms as a goodwill gesture. 2 of the suppliers thanked me for calling personally. One asked if we were back to being serious again. I told him yes. Second priority was compliance. Rolled back the experimental software and restored the proven FDA framework. Legal got their visibility back. Reports started validating cleanly. The regulator's inquiry got answered with documentation instead of excuses. By noon Wednesday, our risk dashboard went from red to green. Third was people. Met with the managers Ashley had tried to push out. No speeches, no promises, just clarity. Their jobs were secure. Their authority was restored. One of them, our warehouse director who hadn't taken a vacation in 5 years, leaned back in his chair and exhaled like he'd been holding his breath since the acquisition started. By the end of the second week, Titan's integration team stopped checking up on us and started planning ahead. Timelines stabilized. Dependencies got sorted. The whole machine hummed again. Not flashy, just steady. That's when people started asking questions. Careful ones. Is Andy staying? Who's he report to now? Is this permanent? Didn't answer them. Permanence gets decided by results, not promises. Thursday afternoon, Jessica asked me to join a call with Titan's board liaison. No agenda, just context sharing. I walked them through the recovery steps, remaining risks, timeline to full stability. Didn't ask for anything special. At the end, the liaison said, "You run operations like an engineer." "I am one," I replied. Pause on their end. Then, good. That night I walked through the warehouse floor for the first time in months. Forklifts moving with purpose. Screens updating in real time. A supervisor waved and said, "Feels normal again. Normal. Best compliment I could get." A few days later, Titan made it official. Extended my role quietly. Same responsibilities, longer timeline. Enough runway to finish building the bridge I'd been holding together since the acquisition started. Ashley sent me one message from Austin. First week was rough. Learned more than I expected. I typed back, "That's how it starts." Because careers don't end with laughter. They end with lessons, whether you're ready for them or not. By the second month, the chaos felt distant, not erased, just managed, like a storm that had passed without doing structural damage. Titan's name was on the building now, but Summit's backbone was intact. Numbers told the story better than any presentation. On-time deliveries climbed back above baseline. Vendor complaints dropped to 0. Compliance audits closed without follow-ups. Quiet wins that never make headlines but decide whether companies survive. Titan noticed. So did executives who'd never bothered learning my name before. Started asking for my input on things outside my official scope. What breaks if we scale faster? Where are the hidden costs? Who actually understands this system? I answered honestly. Sometimes the answer was me. Sometimes it wasn't. Either way, the truth held up. 6 months later, nobody talked about the meeting anymore. Not because it was forgotten, but because it didn't matter. Summit survived the acquisition not through luck or politics, but because the right systems were in place and the right person was trusted to run them. The company became boring again, in the best possible way. Processes worked, decisions had clear owners, problems got caught early and fixed without drama. The machine did what it was designed to do. As for the business card that made Ashley laugh, I still carry it. Not because it represents victory, but because it reminds me how fragile authority really is when it isn't earned. You don't win by being the loudest person in the room. You win by being the one who understands what actually keeps the lights on. And when all the noise finally fades, that's when real careers begin. That's my story. Hope it was worth your time.